Hello. So this video is going to demonstrate a method of working called pull. Now there's a really fun video on YouTube, this one, the resource utilization trap. If you are working in a team that calls themselves a squad, you can thank this guy. This is Henrik Nyberg, Swedish. He helped Spotify become what it is today and helped them become a truly agile organization. And he puts together a number of short videos, and this particular one, 5.5 minutes long. Let me show you. There we are. So 5.5 minutes long. There he is, Henrik. He uses quite a fun way. He uses ping pong balls, and if you take a look at this video, you'll see what he means by pull and how it establishes flow. Now I'm going to demonstrate it using a board. Now what you see on screen is what's known as a Kanban board. If you are a team that uses Scrum, and this applies to both types of teams, whether you use Scrum or you don't use Scrum. If you're a team that uses Scrum, you're actually using a Kanban board. It's the sprint backlog. It is traditionally a Kanban board. And if you're using Jira to manage your work and you use the board in Jira, the active sprint is a Kanban board. So this equally applies to the Scrum teams out there, and it applies to those teams that don't use Scrum. Now before we get started, I'll just orientate you. So obviously you've got the board. It's got a number of columns. We have work items, so these are cards. These represent those index cards stuck with sticky tack on a wall, or post-it notes on a wall, or Jira issues or Jira tickets if you want to use them. And you can move these around. You can move these across the columns, and you can also or move them down columns as well. And they represent a piece of work. So when that work item gets into the done column, it will deliver value to someone somewhere, or at least one person somewhere. And this can be software engineering, so user story is a technique used in software engineering. But it could also be doing a report. It could be an HR thing about onboarding someone. It could be purchasing, raising a purchase order. It could be sales and marketing, running a sales and marketing campaign, whatever. Any team that does work and work will eventually get done. Okay, so it has some work items packaged up into these cards. Now, there's a couple of prerequisites about this way of working. The first prerequisite is this column is actually, you need to view this column as a queue of work. So the most valuable thing in this queue to be delivered is at the top. The second most valuable thing is next, and third, and so on and so on and so on. And the reason why you can move these cards up and down in a tool like Jira or in Miro, which I'm using now, or any of the digital replacements for sticky notes. And in fact, it's why you use sticky notes, so that you can reorder the queue of work. Because today, user story might be the most valuable thing, and do that report might be the second most valuable thing. But tomorrow, must do this might come in. And that might be the most valuable thing, and doing the report might be the second most valuable thing. So this column is a living, breathing, evolving column that adapts its order of value as the world demands certain things from the team. It's a bit like the product backlog in Scrum. This column is off to the left, and then you pull your work into the sprint backlog, and then it goes to in progress and done. So this part of the board would be the let me just fix my. There we go. This part of the board would be the sprint backlog, and this would be the product backlog. This column would be, I think it's backlog on the left-hand side in Jira, and this is called active sprint. So you get a board here, but here you see a holistic view. So for this technique applies to Scrum teams and also teams that don't use Scrum. So that was the first prerequisite: an ordered queue of work. That's maintained, and you maintain that order. The second prerequisite to working in this way is this: If you, so I'm talking to you as if you are an agile team, or you're a team that desires to become more agile. So you're on your agile journey. If you go online and search for Agile Planning Onion, you'll see a picture like this. So, and what we're doing is we're implementing this part of the planning techniques within Agile. The world changes every moment. So what we do is we step into the future of the unknown. We work and live in environments of volatility and uncertainty and complexity. What we do is we step forward into that fog of the future daily, one step at a time, and then we see what emerges from the fog of the future. So the second prerequisite is get the team to meet at the same time every day and have a conversation. It could be a 30 minutes Outlook meeting, and have a conversation and plan who's going to do what over the next 24 hours. So it's a daily planning conversation of what the team will do over this next 24 hours. If you're using Scrum, you should already have this in place, because Scrum mandates that you have this daily 24-hour planning conversation, and it gives it a name. It's called the Daily Scrum. Okay, so you've got your daily planning conversation in place. You're going to meet at the same time, 9:30, 11 o'clock, 1 p.m., whatever suits your team, whether it's a local team, national team, or an international team. So you might have to span multiple time zones. I know I did it at my last place. We had a team. We had to meet at 1 p.m. just to look after our US colleagues. So you do need to have that daily planning conversation meeting in place, and you need an ordered queue of work. And this is how the pull method goes. And before we get into this, let me show you what teams traditionally do. If you take a look at their active sprint in Jira or their Kanban board, you'll see something like this. It's very, very cluttered, very, very cluttered. Now I'll show you at the end of this video how to handle this anyway. The technique I'm about to show you will still work if you come to this technique as you're on your journey and you've actually got 15,000 things in progress. The technique I'm going to show you will still work for you. So keep watching. The problem with this is it doesn't show a state of play, because how can a team possibly work on everything in progress all at once in the same day? It can't. So this work item number 1, 3, and 5, the team might be able to work on, but 2, 4, and 6 and onwards are idle. They're stalled. So there's no progress. There's no progress being made on those work items. So this is a lie. It doesn't reflect reality. Also, senior management. So if you're using digital software like Jira, Jira can't show any reporting on this because it's all stuck in progress for days, weeks, months on end. So, and the third thing is what you can actually do to predict future delivery is you can measure how long it takes a work item from when it leaves that first column and begins its journey. So it's in progress, it's progression, it's in progress towards the done column, and the time it arrives, the date it arrives. And that's called cycle time. And you can measure that. And if that took 3 days, and that took 5 days, and that took 2 weeks, and that took 1 day, then you can measure the average, so that the future work, you can get some kind of sense of when this portion of the backlog might be delivered based on historical throughput, historical flow. But if everything is stuck and in progress, the software can't measure that. Now let's reset this. There we go. So don't do that. Don't push work into the system. We want to pull work into the done column. And this is how it goes. When the team meets on its daily 24-hour planning conversation, or daily Scrum if you're using Scrum, you stand on the right and you look back to the first populated column. Now it's an ordered list, which means the most valuable thing today is at the top. So you look down to that first item and then you swarm. You focus on idle work, not on idle workers. What you do is you say to the team, who can do what on this work item to move it into done over this next 24 hours, or at least move it closer to being done. And they form a plan, they collaborate. So this is collaboration, this is being agile. It's valuing the interactions between individuals, which is the first value statement of the Agile Manifesto. So a plan is formed. Who can do what? It doesn't have to be all team members. It could be 3 out of 7 or even one person on the team. But who can do what on this work item over this next 24 hours, ideally to move it into done, but at least to get it closer to done than it currently is, or at least get started. And then you pull it into in progress. And this is reality. It is really in progress for that next 24 hours. And then you have a conversation about the second work item. And again, let's assume that team members 2, 4, and 6 can work on this. And maybe team member 1 as well. He's working on this, but he's also got capacity to work on this as well. So people can work on more than one item. And the same person can work on more than one item, and different people can work on different items. It all depends on the skills and the talent within the team members. So this item also has a plan, and that gets moved into in progress. And that's true because that also is in progress over this next 24 hours. And let's pretend that the team plans for that, but when it gets to this fourth work item, the team doesn't have any capacity. Everybody's full, everybody's got a full plate, nobody can contribute to anything else over this next 24 hours. And then the conversation ends and everybody gets on with their work. Now let's simulate the day happening. Let's say that the report is done. So that happens sometime over that 24 hours, and you pull somebody, pulls that into the done column, or if you're doing pair programming or peer review of software code, maybe 2 or more people will pull that, and the final person will pull it into the done column. If you are a legal team, maybe it's a case that you're working on. If it's an HR team, maybe it's onboarding that you're working on. But you don't have to wait until the next day to move this card. You can move it in real time or near real time throughout the day. So let's assume that gets done. And we also know that work expands as you get into the detail. So back when the work was formed, we thought we knew everything, but then reality emerges. Maybe we learn that this item has a dependency, an external dependency. We need something from someone that is not in the team. It's another person over there, it's another team over there, it's that other team, it's that other department, it's that consultant, it's that third party, it's that vendor. So you can put that into tracking. You'll see that there's a tracking column. What the tracking column is, this column is to track items that have external dependencies, for which the team has a dependency on something external to it. So it's the D in RAID. And let's assume that that's the state of play. So when the team comes back together the next day, they walk down the done column because the 5th Agile principle says build projects around motivated individuals, and it's very motivating to see things being done. So mention this, talk about it, celebrate your success. Also, if you're a software engineering team and you do release management, what I've done in the past when I've worked with a software engineering team, items that landed in the done column and they truly were done, they satisfied the acceptance criteria on that ticket, automated tests and everything. This was good to go into production. So this actually fed my release planning conversation later on that day. We had the daily planning conversation Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, but on Mondays at 11 o'clock, about an hour and a half after the daily Scrum finished, I went into a release planning, and I could now parse this column and identify candidates for that week's release. So, but even if you don't do release, celebrate your success. Oh look, this got moved into the done column. What happened there? Well done. Well done, Fred. Well done, Sally. And then you look back, so the conversation continues. You're still in your daily Scrum. You're still in your daily 24-hour planning conversation. And you look at this one. Okay, so we haven't been able to unblock that. We didn't get what we wanted. Is this an escalation? If you're using Scrum, the team might want to escalate to the Scrum Master because it's been unable to unblock this item itself. Or maybe just leave it there. Maybe you need to wait three or days to get what you asked for. So you have a conversation about this. What needs to be done on this over this next 24 hours? Leave it there. Was it unblocked? Did it come back? but let's assume that it didn't. So it's still tracking, and the team decides to do nothing on it and wait another 24 hours and see if we can get what we need, see if we can get that external dependency in. And then we come back and you swarm around this one. Who can do what over this next 24 hours to move that into the done column or closer to it and make more progress on it, because it is in progress. Now you might find that the team has got capacity now, so you look back again. Meanwhile, what's happened is a new piece of work has come in, very important and urgent work, which has gone straight to the top of the column. So you see, it is a living, breathing, evolving list, and maybe that person decided he didn't want to take the job, so you can archive this thing away, you can archive that away. So this product backlog, or this queue of work, really is evolving, and maybe doing that other thing has become more valuable as well, but not quite as valuable as the very important thing. So this really is a living, breathing queue of work ordered by value in as much real time as you want. So when the team comes to this part of the conversation and wants to pull more work into the system towards the done column, this is now the most valuable. So it pulls it. So now you have a conversation about that. Who can do what on that over this next 24 hours to move that into done or to make progress towards the done column? And let's assume that that can be planned, can be pulled into the system as well. And when we talk about that raised purchase order, there's no capacity to do that. We've got valuable stuff almost done, in progress. So let's leave that for tomorrow. Let's see if we can deal with that tomorrow. Let's assume over that 24-hour period that the dependency was delivered and the team's got the information it needed, so that can move back into in progress. Somebody moved that back into in progress. And let's assume this very urgent and important piece of work was done. So the team comes together in its daily 24-hour planning conversation. Sam's on the right, goes down the list. We already talked about that. We celebrated the success. Maybe we want to archive that, maybe we don't. It's your choice. Jira will archive this stuff at the click of a button if you want to do that. We celebrated success here. Yeah, that was very important. It came in out of the blue. There it is. It's now in the done column. Yay. Celebrate our success. Look back, look down, nothing in the tracking column. And let's continue backwards. And this, so we've got a queue of work here, most valuable at the top. So who can do what on the user story over this next 24 hours? So a plan's formed on that, a plan's formed on that, a plan's formed on that, and maybe, just maybe, the team's got a bit of capacity. Maybe one person in the team, at least one person in the team, can maybe do that. And that was at the top. The queue didn't move over this last 24 hours. The team gets on with it. Let's pretend that the purchase order went in there. That can get archived if you want, or you can leave it there. The user story is fine. They must do this. There might have been an external dependency there or not, as the case may be, and so on and so on. Next day, come down, celebrate your success, come over here, form a new plan, a new 24-hour plan for that, 24-hour plan for that, 24-hour plan for that, and can you pull any more in, yes or no? So this is capacity-driven planning, where the team members pull tasks to themselves. They know where they can contribute because they are the experts, not us. Now, what you might have noticed is work is flowing. Flow. You've established flow. Not only does the board display reality, but work is also flowing from left to right. And the software, or the manual process of using sticky notes, you're measuring throughput. You're measuring how the average cycle time of these work items. And even this very important thing here, when it arrived, you can measure it getting to the done column or moving up this queue of work somehow and then going across into the done column. That's called lead time. From the time for a card to arrive to a card to make its way up to the most valuable thing, get pulled into the system, get pulled across the columns into the done column. That's called lead time. And you can measure this, and that gives you that predictability. Now, that's the end of a pull way of working, and you can stop the video now and get on with your day job, but I'm going to cover a scenario. What happens if you see what you like, but the state of your board is 15,000 things in progress? What do you do? So you have a load of work items here, and you have a load of work items here. What do you do? Well, the technique still works, and I'll show you. Let me demonstrate. Stand on the right, look back, look down, and this column, all of these columns are queues of work ordered by value. So you look down, so we assume that the user story is the most valuable thing. If it's not, if this is not an ordered queue of work, stick it in some order. Maybe just order the top 3 items or whatever makes sense. You don't have to order the whole queue. But or even have a conversation. What's the most valuable thing for us to work on today? Well, raising the purchase order because. What's the second most valuable thing? Well, I'll do that other thing because. What's the third most valuable thing? Well, yeah, leave that user story. That sounds about right. And yeah, the rest of that we'll see when we get to them. So swarm around this. Form a plan around. So you've stood on the right. You've looked back. You looked down. Swarm around this. Form a 24-hour plan. So that's now got a plan. Swarm around this. That's got a plan. Keep going until nobody can contribute to anything else. So it's kind of a mini backlog. It's kind of an intermediate backlog queue. Let's pretend that the queue, that the team can only do as far as the arrow. And that's it. And over the next day or so, these items are going to move into the done column. And then at that point in time, whether it's the next day, 2, 3, 4 days, when you stand on the right, celebrate your successes before, do candidates for release management if that's the way you work. If you have a concept of release management, stand on the right, celebrate your success, look back, look down, and swarm around this item. Form a 24-hour plan. Swarm around that item. Form a 24-hour plan. Keep going until you're full. Let's pretend that the team's full at this stage. And let's pretend that it manages to get 2 items done. At one day in the future, in the near future, hopefully in the next day or 2, stand on the right, look back, look down, swarm around that work item, swarm around that work item, and maybe they can even pick up this work item now. But maybe they're at capacity there. And let's assume that, let's fast forward time, and the team managed to pull those 3 items into the done column. And then on that day, whatever day that is, on the right, celebrate your success, always celebrate your success. Look back, look down, swarm around that work item, swarm around that work item. The team can actually pull this work item in as well. Let's just bring a couple in. Let's pretend the team's got the capacity to work on, to chip away at these 4 work items over this next 24 hours. And then at some day in the future, so the next day or the day, keep having the daily conversations, keep pulling these work items, forming your 24-hour plans. Stand on the right, look back, look down. Let's assume that these work items went into the right-hand column. And what you're seeing, and then you pull this work item, what you're seeing is it didn't matter that you had 100 items in progress. You emptied that column. You pull from the right, you look back and you empty the column. The work items flowed up and in. And then fresh work was able to be pulled to in progress. So even if you find yourself with 15,000 things in the in progress column, this technique can still help you. That's the pull way of working, and this will help you be successful with Agile.